Hello, Tampa Bay fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show, your online radio home for Tampa Bay sports talk and Rays postgame shows. Stay tuned throughout baseball season for live coverage after most Rays games with comprehensive coverage of all 162 games from April through October. Got something to say? We'd love to hear it. Give us a call, internationally toll-free. 877-566-1020, or send us a tweet at WHBC Official. Don't go anywhere. Tonight's program will be starting in just a couple of minutes.
HBC. Never have I been so happy to be so wrong about a game prediction. It is a good evening to you and how you be. William Haynes here, you there, here at 11:18 on this Monday night. This Rays postgame edition of the William Haynes Show is live from the WHBC studio in Clearwater, Florida. Number to call the show to talk Rays is 877-566-1020, and we would love to hear from you on what is certainly an eventful night in 2021 Rays baseball. Also, you can tweet us your thoughts, drop us a line at WHBC Official, and we'll read your thoughts and respond to them on the air. All that good stuff, as it is always. But the Rays open this, what I have really built up to be, and a lot of others, as a really important series in the south side of Chicago. The Rays take game one of this best of three by a score of 5-2. Of course, Tyler Glasnow, the Rays ace, on the mound, and he goes 4 innings, about 53 pitches. He exits the game with what we have right now to be right elbow inflammation, and of course we'll discuss that as the show goes on. If you're listening to this live and are looking maybe for a bit of an update, we don't really have much for you other than from Tompkin on Twitter, Cash saying that they're going to do an MRI tomorrow. Quote from Cash, "It's certainly not ideal," which is what he always says, but they won't know more until tomorrow. Glasnow said he felt a little tug in his elbow during his final few pitches. He was kind of snapping some really sharp sliders, which always look to be causing a little bit of stress on the elbow. Never a pitch that looks very easy to make. Glasnow says he'll take a what's done is done approach, expects to sleep tonight and see what the MRI shows tomorrow. So, again, nothing really significant. More from Topkin, as I just want to kind of get all this out of the way and run down the line. Glasnow said there was some tightness in his elbow, no crazy pain, but he knew enough not to continue. He also complained about inconsistencies and slickness of the baseballs and suggested that could have been a factor in an elbow issue since he had to grip the ball very tightly. So that's probably not a good thing if he was changing maybe his pitching motion a little bit. If there was obviously a difference when you talk about gripping the ball tightly, maybe a forearm issue comes to mind. And that would obviously be no stranger to Tyler Glasnow, if you'll recall, in May, and we talked about this last night, in 2019, he had to leave a game early with what was forearm tightness, and he missed basically the rest of the regular season and came back late that September and started a couple playoff games. So I guess in some ways it's a good thing it's not a forearm issue, at least not that we know right now, because that's, I think, the most obvious link maybe to Tommy John, other than perhaps, a blown out elbow, which doesn't appear to be the case right now. Dave Wills, who was on the radio call, who was a pitcher all the way through the college level, was saying typically if it's just an inflammation in the elbow area, maybe just some rest and some medication, it's whether or not there's going to be an injured list stint. If you had to ask me right now, I would say probably yes, a 10-day IL stint, but I don't really want to make any more speculation past that. We don't really know. If you want to talk about maybe some contingency plans about who would replace Glasnow with an IL stint, they could stay in-house, maybe call up a reliever to pick up some bulk innings, but maybe try and really push Michael Wacha back to the starting rotation. To me, that would be the most maybe obvious approach to that, and obviously it would be temporary maybe depending on how much time Glasnow is going to miss, and you pick up the innings from there. But then you look towards AAA Durham, and they've got Luis Patino, who is healthy again and is pitching with Durham, and I think he had a 5-inning scoreless start tonight, and he had retired, so I think the last 15 of the 16 batters he faced. So he's looking very good. They've got Drew Rasmussen, who they acquired in that Willy Adames trade with Milwaukee, who can start games. Drew Strotman, another starter at Durham that's pitched pretty well, and then another guy that's been up at the bigs this year, Brent Honeywell. So there's plenty of guys. Certainly, pitching depth is the furthest thing from an issue in this organization. It would be, of course, a shame if Glasnow was to miss time, especially significant time. But as it stands, at least right now, there's no panic. There's no, there's no the sky's falling kind of approach really at all. They're going to have to deal with whatever it is, and I don't think we'll know maybe until this time tomorrow. So I think that would be certainly the best time to maybe have that more discussion in depth, and we can talk contingency plans at a deeper level perhaps then as well. That kind of overshadows everything, I think, in some ways, kind of the win as well, because, with Charlie Morton and Blake Snell gone, Tyler Glasnow is going into this year basically taking the reins as the ace of one of the best overall pitching staffs in the sport. So with that, obviously, comes a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation, responsibility, and already we're about, 3 weeks from the All-Star break, and he has already pitched a career high, in innings, pitches, any way you want to slice it. This is really his first full season as a big leaguer and as a starting pitcher. I think he had at least one season of minor league ball where he was, starter all the way through. But this is really his first time doing it as a big leaguer. So, and going, of course, last year in 2020, the 60-game season and the layoff and everything that came with that. And then now going back to the 162, that was going to be the most stressful, of course, on pitchers, and I would say probably starting pitchers in particular, because they are tasked with throwing the most innings, and Glasnow especially. You also look at Tyler Glasnow, and not that this necessarily was mishandled by the Rays, but they have certainly been, if you will, kind of riding the hot hand. He was coming off a start, his very last start, 5 days ago, he threw a career high in pitches with 114, and then the last 2 starts before that were 100 pitches. I mean, he's thrown almost 100 pitches in every single start this season. He went 7 innings against the Yankees on June 1st, throwing 100 pitches, and instead of having a pitch every 5th day, the schedule kind of lined up where they could give him basically an extra 2 days. So 7 days in between games. So they did do that at least, and I think that was the right call to be made. But then went 7 innings, 114 pitches. So as quick as the Rays are to give a bit of a quick hook to a starting pitcher that's going well, I know I don't even need to give you an example of that. But you would think maybe that they would have been more careful with Glasnow. But again, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds going into that discussion, because we don't even know if there really is anything to blame yet. Glasnow could be perfectly fine. And good on Tyler. Obviously, no starting pitcher ever wants to come out of a game, but he realized that something was wrong. The coaches, they couldn't even notice anything wrong from the dugout either. I mean, you look at that 4th inning before he departed, struck out the first 2 men that he faced, and then got injured on. So it was a quick 1-2-3 inning, but as I also mentioned, was kind of whipping those sliders. The best way I can describe it, when a guy is kind of over pitching breaking balls, or as Dave Wills would say, is trying to make the best pitch of his life or of the game. Instead of just kind of throwing it naturally, you're just trying to get as much spin on it as possible, to try and get it past the guy, trying to get the spin rate up. And usually when that happens, you'll see guys kind of spiking pitches 55 feet in the dirt. And that he did have a couple of those in that final inning. And then if you couple that with Glasnow's admission of gripping the ball a little bit tighter, so the mechanics are a little bit different. There's a lot of things at play that could be potentially leading to this issue. And I know I'm a broken record, but we truly are going to have to just wait and find out on this, the MRI. And maybe that won't even be completely indicative. So the more you look at this, I think the more likely we are to him having a stint on the IL, but they'll be fine, and they've got plenty of guys that can take his place. So with that out of the way, and we'll try and maybe just limit the Tyler Glasnow conversation tonight to just that, and we'll go probably further in depth after tomorrow's game when we have more information. But with the duration of the program, of course, we have tonight's 5-2 win to discuss, and there is a lot of good things. Home runs from guys that certainly needed them, probably all three, Meadows, Lau, and Arozarena. Arozarena also adding a double tonight. So, guys that are hit at the top of the lineup and are probably most critical to the Rays' offensive success, having really good nights against really good Chicago White Sox pitching. That is a terrific sign. The bullpen has been really perfect the last 4 games, you would say. So that's a terrific sign as well. Pretty much everything is going right for this team right now, save for perhaps the Glasnow stuff. But that will be what it is. So at this point, 11:28, we're going to take a break. During the break, if you would like to get on your telephone and give us a call and you would like to discuss the Rays with me and be on the air, certainly we would welcome that. Number to call is 877-566-1020. You can also drop us a line on Twitter at WHBCOfficial. And, of course, in a couple minutes when we return, we will dive into tonight's win. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Don't touch that dial.
You're listening to the Rays postgame on the William Haynes Show. We're live most nights within 15 minutes of the final out to break down everything that happened in that day's game and take listener phone calls to get your thoughts. As always, you call the show at 877-566-1020 or tweet the show at WHBCOfficial. Like you to remember that archives of previous shows can be found on this show's page on Speaker.com and also on the WHBC YouTube channel. We look forward to having some of you on the show. Thanks for calling in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 11:30, we are back on this William Haynes Show on this Monday night, talking about tonight's 5-2 Rays win over the White Sox. And before we get into everything with the game, of course, we also have a pretty significant roster move to discuss, and one, surprisingly or not, that we correctly predicted. It was Ji-Man Choi coming back off the injured list with the left groin tightness that everyone expected that was connected with the right knee issue. So he's been up and down from the IL pretty much all season, dating back to spring training. He last played on June the 2nd, went on the IL, retroactive to June 3rd, and came back up before the game on June 14th. So right about that minimum. He could have been called up Sunday, but the Rays were facing a lefty starter, so they just decided to wait the day, and they wanted to get Brasso, as I predicted, one more chance to play. And Brasso yesterday did go 0 for 3. So in the 3-hole as well. So not, if you're talking about a last stand, certainly did not maybe do himself any kind of favors. He did get kind of shortchanged, as we said last night, on a called strike 3. But at this point, that's neither here nor there. Ji-Man Choi activated from the injured list, and Mike Brasso is optioned to AAA Durham. Brasso, I believe, has just been a consistent member of the big league club since getting called up in late 2019. I believe he was a member of the roster all through 2020, and of course that home run against Chapman in Game 5 of the ALDS last year, and all the drama that he had with Chapman and with the Yankees, and who knows if the Rays went as far as they did last year if not for Brasso. And of course that home run will be right up there in remembrance with the Dan Johnson moments and all those things. He's right up there, kind of in that echelon. So it is, I think, somewhat a big deal with him getting optioned. I think with him hitting 185 on the season, and this is not an extremely small sample size. We're 67 games into the season, and we're closing in on the first half of the year. Before we know it, it'll be the All-Star break in July. So the issues for Brasso weren't necessarily going to go away. I don't think he's looked particularly good at the plate. He has been, I think, I'm not doing a Mike Brasso takedown here, but let's just be honest. Let's put our cards on the table and talk facts. He was an undrafted free agent out of high school, not highly coveted by anyone. Spent some time, through the Rays minor league system, and got a call up, I think, really out of necessity at a point in 2019, and he showed enough to stick around. Ended up being an extremely versatile defender. Can play all first, second, and third base. Has spent some time in the outfield as well. Played some shortstop in spring training, but has not done it in the regular season. But right up there with any kind of super utility that you've got, a Wendell or a Zobrist type player, and had shown flashes with the bat as a righty. Had shown some nice power, especially against left-handed pitching in his career. Not so much this season, which I think was one of the concerns with him. And also, as we discussed, with Ji-Man Choi coming back up, and he has not spent a whole lot of time at the big league level this year, so it was going to change how things were run. There ended up just being a logjam in the infield, and yes, the Rays did have 14 pitchers and 12 position players, and they could have leveled out at 13-13, keeping Brasso and bringing up Choi and just setting down a pitcher. But we ran down the list of pitchers last night. There really isn't anyone, unless they're just gonna cut or DFA Walker potentially. There's no real move to be made on that front. So there's no reason not to make the logical move to send Brasso down, because the truth is he probably could benefit from some playing time and some everyday playing time down at AAA and straighten out whatever's going on, because he can be a serviceable major league player, but he's just not at that level right now. So give him some time maybe to figure that out. And with Choi, he's pretty much, if he's healthy, and I'll tell you, he looked healthy tonight at defense. Caught a line drive that was kind of right to him, but had to make kind of a jumping grab there to get it. And then made a nice couple of plays, unassisted, hard hit ground balls down the first base line, a couple, where he had to dive and then, get back up quickly and sprint over to the bag. And mind you, this is a big guy dealing with a knee and a groin issue and all those things, and he looked as healthy really as we've ever seen. So if he's healthy like that, he's going to be playing at first base every day. He's not really a platoon guy. He'll play against lefties or righties. And so with him at first base every day, that leaves you with two really good players that are going to have to share a third base spot, which is Joey Wendell, who's the best average hitter that the Rays have really on their entire roster. And Yandy Diaz, who probably has one of the best batting eyes in baseball, is top 5 in the American League in walks. And on base percentage, he gets on base about 40% of the time. So there's a two guys that really should be getting everyday playing time on their own, and they won't be able to get it. And then, of course, Walls and Wendell can play shortstop as well. Lau at second base, and then Choi at first. So there's a lot of playing time to go around and not really enough spots to do it with just those names that I mentioned. If you throw Brasso in the mix there as well, things get a little convoluted. If Lau is going to come out of this slump a little bit, you really need to be giving him everyday playing time to keep that rhythm going. I think where Brasso found the most playing time this year is just when Lau was inept at the plate, especially against left-handers, where he was batting 060 with a 180 OPS against lefties. So then basically Lau only played against righties and Brasso would play against lefties. That's no longer really going to be the case. I don't think you got to take the training wheels off Lau at this point, or just take the crutches away, whatever turn of phrase you want to use. So again, a long way of saying, any way you want to slice it, Brasso was the move to be made, and I think Eric Neander in this front office made the right move. It was a difficult decision. Obviously, no doubt, Kevin Cash was saying as much, and he was thankful for what Brasso has done for the organization, because, as I wanted to make sure to point out, he has done a lot and has been a valuable member of this team since he's been a big leaguer with the Rays. But sometimes in this game, you're going to have to make difficult decisions, and I think ultimately, not to be too harsh, I don't think we're really going to miss him if everyone is playing at their level. I think Ji-Man Choi really is going to be the man at first base, and you've got two really good guys that are going to be playing third, in Wendell and Diaz. So a lot of playing time to go around, and hopefully they'll get even more playing time with one less man in what is an infield logjam, not to mention all the talent they've got coming up from AAA Durham, whether Vidal Brujan, Wander Franco, etc. They've got a lot of guys coming up there as well. So lots of time coming up to go around, and hopefully we'll be seeing Brasso sometime down the line, hopefully this season, depending on how things go. Guys are going to get injured, there's no doubt, and if Lau, Wendell, whoever is to go down, Mike Brasso would be the first name to come back up. So only time will tell on that perspective. And Choi, not a bad night himself, 0 for 2 with a couple of walks, and surprise, surprise, and he worked full counts his first 2 plate appearances off the injury list. He was taking at bats in extended spring training in Port Charlotte, but has not played in a major league game in 10, 11 days, and he works full counts in his first 2 at bats. That's really terrific, and I think a testament to the kind of player and the kind of batter that Ji-Man Choi is. So, the Rays, with their 5-2 win tonight, they improved to a season-high watermark, 19 games above 500. They are now at 43-24. They are also a league best 24-10 on the road, and if I didn't mention, their 43 wins lead all teams in Major League Baseball. They dropped the Chicago White Sox, who are a first-place team in the AL Central, to 41-25. They are also a league best 25-12 at home. So you talk about a series between the best road team in baseball against the best home team in baseball, at the side of the best home team. So that was an interesting matchup, and I think kind of goes to the favor of Chicago. And if you listen to last night's program, I was really bullish on the White Sox in this game, particularly because of Lance Lynn's success the last couple times he's faced the Rays, albeit that was in 2019, so maybe I should have realized that things have changed since then, but 2 really terrific starts. And I was expecting that Glasnow was maybe going to have a coming back to earth start against potentially the best lineup he's faced all season, because I would say, especially this year, this lineup is leaps and bounds ahead of the Yankees lineup, which is probably the best that Glasnow has faced this season, save for Oakland, perhaps, whatever you want to say. But this was the biggest test, not just for Glasnow, but for the entire team. And so far, they are acing that test with flying colors. And we'll definitely wait and see over the next 2 games, but it looks like things are going to be going bright if the bats continue to stay hot, which all indications would prove they are. And the bullpen is, I mean, if they're going to stay perfect, it's going to be really hard to lose any game because they're going to keep they're going to give the offense a chance every night. So the starter just has to put out a decent start, and Glasnow did do that. He was really cruising through 4 innings, had only thrown 53 pitches, and then of course exited with the injury, and 5 innings of only 2 hit ball from the bullpen, and you really can't get it any better than that. But for the victorious Rays, it was 5 runs on 9 hits, 1 error defensively for them. That was a play by Joey Wendell in the 3rd inning when the White Sox scored both of their runs. And then for the White Sox, it was 2 runs on 5 hits, 1 error defensively for them. Trying to see where that was, and the error was against Ruiz, the pitcher that was in the 9th. That allowed Taylor Walsh to go from second to home in the 9th to add an additional insurance run. They were already leading 4-2, but put the game just that much more out of reach for a White Sox offense that was really struggling down the stretch again against the Rays' pen. The decisions for the pitchers, and this is certainly interesting, getting the win. J.P. Feyereisen, he's now 3-0 as a Ray, 3-2 overall in the season. His 2 innings scoreless of work, 2 strikeouts, no walks, and no hits allowed either. So 2 perfect innings, 6 up, 6 down. And I would say, and I think everyone would really agree with this sentiment, the best that J.P. Feyereisen has looked this season. Obviously, the walks weren't much of an issue in his 18 pitches. 15 were for strikes. So this is obviously the ceiling, what we just saw tonight. A fastball at low to mid 90s, but does have play, especially when he can put it where he wants it. And then a really interesting dynamic with the off speed. As a right-hander, he's got a really nice slider that breaks down and away from righties or down and into lefties, but then he's got a changeup that breaks the other way. So that effect that a right-handed pitcher can throw a breaking ball that breaks down and in to the righty. So he can go down and in, down and away, and then got a fastball that he can, go up in the zone with. When he's on and when his pitches have break, which they certainly did tonight, and we had a discussion a few days ago after, Major League Baseball's kind of official crackdown on foreign substances for pitchers, and I think like the very next appearance for Feyereisen after that memo issued by MLB, he had walked, I think, 2 or 3 batters in an inning of work. And so we were wondering maybe if he was a guy, because the Rays, at least that we know of, don't have a lot of that going on, as it is kind of an individual thing, not really an organizational thing. So Feyereisen coming over from another team, maybe that was something he was doing. And of course, that was all speculation, and I was not even going to make that accusation. But I think especially now, there was no sticky stuff involved, obviously, tonight because of what's going on, and he definitely didn't need it. Obviously, is really for the first time he had the slider and the changeup breaking and going that way that we had seen on kind of some highlight tapes from his Milwaukee days. So if he continues to play at this level, and obviously the hope is that he will, another addition to the back end of the bullpen that really couldn't be any better right now. I think Pete Fairbanks is potentially at his the best as he's been as a Ray as well. Castillo has been up and down, but looked very good tonight, with Feyereisen. So you're talking about right there 3 guys that could potentially be closing games. And keep in mind, we're also going to be having Nick Anderson, Oliver Drake, Chaz Rowe, maybe even Colin Poche coming back down the line. So even without all those guys, you've got 3 guys that could legitimately close out games. And then you throw in, the Ryan Thompson and the Andrew Kittredges of the world, who would probably be closers on most other teams as well. So you're talking about 5 legitimate closer level relievers. So, even on a day where your starter goes 4 innings, if the bullpen is fresh and you can use them at your disposal, you can completely shut down your opponent. And an offense for the Rays that has been terrific as of late on this run that they've been on. They're also leading Major League Baseball, averaging six runs a game on the road. So anytime you can do that and the bullpen is pitching at this level, you're going to be basically impossible to beat. And, of course, that's really how the Rays have looked here as of late. So JP Feyereisen in his best game as a Ray gets the win. And the fact that he's only been on the team, looking at the schedule, he came over during that Dunedin series, May 21st through the 24th. So the fact that he's only been on this team for, 3 weeks, and he's already 3-0 out of the pen. That's terrific as well, and it proves that he's been used in fairly high leverage situations and has got a handful of saves to his name as well. So a lot of decisions already for JP. Getting the loss for the White Sox, and a pitcher who has been terrific going into tonight's game was Lance Lynn. And again, going into tonight's game, Lance Lynn was 7-1 with a 123 earned run average, probably the front runner for the American League Cy Young Award, and the loss drops him to 7-2. In his 6 innings of work, he gives up 3 runs on 6 hits. He walks 3 batters and strikes out 8. So it was a bit of a rough landing for him. Of course, the 2-run homer by Austin Meadows in the first, and then gave up a solo shot by Lau in the third. And those 3 runs allowed over his 6 innings also tied his season high. He had given up 3 to Cleveland on May 1st, so basically tied for his worst start of the year. A guy that throws fastballs about 92% of the time, cutters included in that as well. So, and not an extremely high velo, but he did crank the fastball up to about 95, and the cutter in about 90 to 92, depending on the situation where he wanted to put it. And a guy that has pretty good location. I was really he's an interesting pitcher to watch, that's for sure. It seemed like his approach, really righty or lefty against this Rays order, he would pick which side he wanted to start in against you. So let's say, against the lefty Kiermaier, there was a really obvious example of this in KK's at-bat where he struck out in a full count in the second inning, where he just fastballs and cutters outside to the lefty KK, the first 3, 4, 5 pitches. And then after that, when the at-bat had kind of reached a turning point, then he started working inside, pitch after pitch after pitch. So, and vice versa, it would start inside for the first 3 or 4 pitches and then work outside. So, could really put those pitches anywhere he wanted to. He also had a couple, sliders, changeups, whatever they were coming up as that were getting some decent swing and miss. And when the Rays were struggling against him, obviously this is against most starters, they were taking those pitches for strike one. And he's not a guy necessarily that you want to go in a hole against, because then you're going to put yourself in a position where you've got to be swinging at everything, and with his location, that's going to put you in a bad spot. So they did their damage against him early, and but Lynn was eventually able to settle in, and there isn't really anything about this team right now to complain about. But the one issue that I think that they're still having, they are having a bit of a difficulty dealing that knockout punch to a starting pitcher. I mean, you even look at to last week against the Nationals, I believe it was Patrick Corbin. They had 2 runs in the first and another in the third, and Corbin still ends up going 5 innings. And Lester the day before, they were able to get out, before the 4th was over. So, but even when you're facing aces like Lynn, it's going to be harder to do that. But they've even struggled to do that again against not so great starters. So you want to look about something they can improve upon, maybe deal that knockout punch, but that's never really what this offense has been about. This isn't necessarily a murderer's row lineup. But this is how really they've been able to win lately. They just score a few runs early, starter, even if he does okay, and then lock down, automatic pen late in the game. And so, those couple runs early is usually all you need. And then as of late, as well, they've been able to add some insurance runs late in the game, including with some extra base hits, so that they can kind of score at any time in the game. Has made for a really difficult team to match up against. So, and Lance Lynn, it's certainly an adventure between him and the home plate umpire Ryan Blakeney. Early, there was some pitches borderline that were being called for balls, and that's where some of the walks came from. And then it looked like in the third or fourth inning, there was a turning point where there would be pitches of baseball or even two off the plate, and they would be called strikes. And that basically opened the door for Lance Lynn to have a couple strong innings there, as was fairly decent in the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth to bring the game into its late stages. And the Sox will also have a pretty impressive pen as well. I mean, this is a team without many weaknesses. So he did take advantage of some of that. But again, of course, a guy that throws mostly fastballs with good location. If the home plate umpire is kind of given the green light as far as widening the strike zone, that's going to be a combination in favor of a guy like Lance Lynn, and I guess give him credit for taking advantage of that. And then the final pitcher decision, it was Pete Fairbanks getting his third save of the year, and his second in the last handful of days. He had the save, I believe, on the Saturday game against the O's. His perfect ninth inning, no walks, no strikeouts. It was just 3 groundouts to Jose Abreu, Yasmani Grandal, and Adam Eaton. So 3 fairly difficult outs, but he made it look easy. The fastball, which is always good with him, and pretty rare for a reliever to have really 3, but 4 if you count the cutter pitches. A lot of the Rays relievers like Castillo or Kittredge, sinker slider types, and that's it. But Fairbanks that can attack you in a variety of ways, and I would say right now is probably Kevin Cash's favorite choice late in the game out of the pen in a safe spot or what he deems the highest leverage situation. So that Fairbanks has looked really good the last few times that the Cash has put him there. I think Fairbanks stock is just going to continue to rise. If you're a fantasy baseball player, I'm not, but not that he's on waivers, but Pete Fairbanks, I would imagine, is going to be getting a few more saves by season's end if he continues to pitch like this, because as I mentioned about a week ago, I think he is probably overpassing Castillo right now on the reliever hierarchy. And JP Fireisen, if he keeps pitching like this, may be surpassing Castillo as well. But it really is a good thing because they are all terrific relievers. So, but good to see Fairbanks get the save. The starting lineup tonight for the Rays: defense first in the outfield from left to right. It was Randy Arozarena in left, Kevin Kiermaier in center, Brett Phillips in right, and then in the infield from third to first, it was Joey Wendell at third base, Taylor Walls at shortstop, Brandon Lau at second, Ji-Man Choi at first. Mike Zunino did the catching, and the DH was Austin Meadows against a righty starter, a pretty traditional lineup with the switch hitter Walls. They basically had, 7 lefties and 2 righties against the righty Lynn, so they gave themselves a chance to match up in the best way possible. Choi coming back at first base, that makes sense, and Kiermaier and Phillips are both going to play most nights against righties as well. And then the way the batting order was structured, Brandon Lau led off, followed by Arozarena and Choi. Meadows hit cleanup, followed by Wendles and Walls, and a 7-8-9 of Mike Zunino, Kevin Kiermaier, and Brett Phillips. And another correct prediction for us, Randy Arozarena, who is hitting cleanup a lot lately, but he is on a hot stretch. Also extended his hitting streak to 9 games with his double down the left field line in the first inning. So his stock is obviously skyrocketing. He's got an average back up to 264 as he's really been on a terrific run. So he moves back up to the 2 spot, which is really where he belongs, and is a guy that will probably be hitting leadoff against lefties whenever it is the next time that the Rays see one of those. It looks like tomorrow it's going to be the lefty Dallas Keuchel, so in a battle of southpaws between Keuchel and McClanahan. So Randy Arozarena could be hitting cleanup as early as tomorrow, and Lau, with his day getting a home run, will continue, I would expect, against righties, and you kind of have that platoon with that spot at the top of the order. Ji-Man Choi in the 3 spot, I think that's a perfect place for him. Save for maybe Yandy Diaz works the best at bats and anyone in this order, and I think is more of a threat certainly than Yandy Diaz. They both work great at bats, but Choi is more of a threat to get a legit hit late in an at bat. Yandy Diaz, with 3 balls, he's probably either going to walk or strike out. With Choi in a 3-ball count, I have confidence that he's going to get a good pitch to hit, and he'll actually get a hit off of it. So, is a valuable weapon at the top of the order. And could you imagine a day where maybe you've got Arozarena leading off, Yandy Diaz in the 2-hole, and Choi in the 3-hole, and then maybe have Lau cleaning up? I mean, if all those guys are at their best, that is a really tough 1 through 4. And then you've got, Meadows and Wendell and, those guys to follow. So a team, obviously it's a tired out narrative, but the low payroll and everything, but they really do have a set of terrific players. And I've seen, discussion amongst Rays fans that this is perhaps the greatest team that this franchise has had, and really with the way they look right now, I wouldn't really dispute that. And it, especially when they're going right, a lineup that looks really good top to bottom. And then outside of that, talks for the lineup. Wendell in the middle at the 5 spot makes a lot of sense, and he's a terrific average hitter as he goes 2 for 4. And then, at the bottom is as expected Walls, Zunino, Kiermaier, Phillips. Those are all guys, you can shake them up, but they're all always going to be pretty much at the bottom of the batting order. And this was game 67 for the Rays. They have used 66 unique lineups. They've only repeated a lineup twice. And one of these days I'm going to find what that order is. I bet it's one of the ones that probably has Setsugo in it, and not one that they'll be able to repeat. I don't know if it's possible to do 161 lineups unique in the season. They would probably have to call some guys up after a while, but if it's possible, Kevin Cash, it seems this year, is determined to do just that. I'm trying to do something new and maybe get these programs within 45 minutes, because we've been doing an hour plus, an hour 15, so trying to keep it short. I think we might go away from doing the each at bat for the guys and maybe just kind of gloss over kind of their nights and who had the best night. We'll start with Brandon Lau, and maybe we'll try and talk about all 9, but just be a bit more expeditious about it, if you will. Brandon Lau in the leadoff spot, 1 for 5 with a solo home run, no walks, a strikeout. He keeps the average back up over the Mendoza line at 201 and on base at 308. And really only the good at-bat of the night for him was a 1-out home run in the 3rd. And Lance Lynn, it appeared, did not do his scouting report on the Rays because he pitched Meadows down and in, which why pitchers continue to do that still is amazing me. And to Brandon Lau, pitched a middle in, on the hands, which is probably his favorite pitch to get. And he belted a home run in the 3rd. It went 402 feet to right and made it 3-0 Rays there, and when they were really piling on Lance Lynn there early. So, and that was good for his 12th home run of the year. So, as bad as he's been, I mean, a 201 average, but is probably going to have, 14, 15 home runs by the All-Star break. I couldn't believe this when they said it on the radio tonight, that Wilson Ramos in 2018, in a year where he made the All-Star game, had 14 home runs in the first half. So, you're looking at guys right now, Meadows, who has 14, Lau, who has 12, Zunino, I think, who has, I want to say 12, Rosarena, who has 9. I don't know why Wilson Ramos is my benchmark for, what's a good power season. But I just remember in 2018, he was obliterating the baseball. And there's certainly no question that after some small ball in 18 and 19, that the Rays have returned to their ways of, maybe 16 and 17 where they were, power focused, and have gone back to some more home runs and some guys changing their approach at the plate. But it's incredible that this team is going to have potentially, 4, 5, 6 guys by season's end that will hit 20, 25 home runs, which going into the season, I don't think I could have predicted that. And again, with Lau, that was about the only good moment at the plate. Had a strikeout in there as well, but kudos to putting the ball in play in the other 3 outs, and looked very good. At second base was started a double play in the second inning, so it seems like he's good for about one of those a game almost. I mean, it's a testament to the whole defense as well, and it seems like he's always good for one of those plays in the shift, taking away a hit, and he was very good and sound at second base. Randy Arozarena in the 2 spot, 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored and 1 knocked in, no walks, a strikeout. Again, a hitting streak that's extended to 9 games. Has brought his average back up to 264, and on base of 344. So, any way you want to slice it, Arozarena is killing it at the plate. In the first inning, he got a pitch down and in from Lance Lynn and ripped it down the first base line for a double. That was his 11th of the season. And then he struck out in the third, flew out to center in the fifth, and to start the eighth inning, he got a pitch that was away from him, and for the second straight day, he goes opposite field for home run, 395 feet to right. It was in a full count. It was a fastball at 97 middle away from a guy, lefty and Garrett Crochet, who had not given up a home run in his major league career. So that was the first time doing that. And watching him pitch tonight in 2 innings of pretty solid work for the Sox, you could see why. Crochet, just an interesting note I thought I would share. He was drafted, I guess, during the 2020 season or before, out of Tennessee University. With no minor league baseball in 2020, just the alternate training site, he got called up to the big leagues without playing a single game of minor league baseball, and was a critical part of the Sox team last year down the stretch into the playoffs. And I believe he's been on the major league roster all of 2021. So how often do you see that? I don't know. I'm sure maybe it's happened somewhere, but a guy that could very well go his career without maybe playing a single minor league game is absolutely, just a fantastic story. But just to give you an idea, I mean, how incredibly talented he is, and that's a guy that Randy homered off of. And again, back-to-back days, of course, the grand salami yesterday against the O's, where he got a slider down and away and went opposite field with it. Did the same here tonight. There was a very interesting piece on, I think it was This Week in Rays Baseball, Sunday morning before the game, and very fitting that it happened to be there. And hitting coach Chad Matullo was on there, or maybe it was something after the game. I don't know exactly where it came from, but Chad Matullo, the hitting coach, was speaking and talking about Arozarena and how they were worked on tweaking some things over the course of the season, and it seems like everyone has kind of undergone some sort of change in their approach at the plate, whether it's how they're seeing the ball, their batting stance, their swing, whatever. Everyone's tweaking stuff. That's going to happen. But Arozarena, who has looked maybe a little bit homer hungry, that's potentially why he's been so jumpy at the plate to start this year, and has had some pretty bad stretches. I think when he's at his best, he's just hitting hard line drives, for singles, and that's what I prefer to see from him. But it seemed like he maybe put some pressure on himself to replicate maybe that postseason last year where he set the record, of course, for 10 home runs in a single postseason and all that stuff. Also holds the most hits, I think, with 27. So probably will go down as the best month of baseball in his entire life. It's just so happened to be on a World Series run. And obviously that's going to put a lot of pressure on you to replicate that the next year. And has really not shown any ability at all going into Sunday's game to go for the opposite field hit. Has just been kind of trying to pull everything and hit everything for home runs. But he said in a change of approach after Sunday's game, he wants to just start going with the baseball and hitting it where it's pitched. And that's been a big thing in Major League Baseball and how to go against the shift and everything. You've just got to hit the ball where it's pitched, go the other way. We saw Taylor Walls do that yesterday in his 3 for 4 day, and he did it again as well for a double that we'll talk about. But Randy, not just going the other way, but doing it for home runs. One off of a slider down and away, which you can imagine how hard that is to do. And then here tonight with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, right at the edge of the plate away, and he homers off of that one as well, 395 feet to right. It's terrific. And if he's going to continue to carry this approach through, he's going to have a really terrific stretch. And I'm not sure if he'll make the All-Star game, but he certainly should be in consideration. The number 3 hitter in his first game back since May the 2nd, or rather June the 2nd, I apologize, after the stint on the IL. Ji-Man Choi goes 0 for 2 with 2 walks and a strikeout. His average is at 292 this year, but a very small sample size. Has not played a ton of games this season. In fact, let's go and check to see how many games he has played. The Rays tonight was game 67, and for Ji-Man Choi, this was his 16th game played. So 16 out of the 67 games has been played for Ji-Man Choi. So the 292 average, not exactly indicative, but when he's at his best, I think that's around where it is. As I mentioned, worked full counts in his first 2 at-bats, which was good to see. That he was terrific out the injured list the first time to start the year. Was absolutely fantastic. So walked in the 3rd and 5th innings, and then outside of that, struck out looking in the first, and he was just getting worked over by Lance Lynn, and then grounded out on a pitch to second base that ricocheted off the pitcher in the 8th inning, and that was his day. So to have those walks, kind of a Yandy Diaz type, but as I said, probably a little bit better, just pure hitter. And he looked very healthy at first base defensively as well, with a couple nice plays made. Austin Meadows in the cleanup spot, 1 for 4 with a run scored and 2 knocked in, no walks, a strikeout. It's a bit of a rough stretch. His average has kind of been up and down. I think at its best it was about 245. He's now hitting 234. And really his claim to fame tonight was the 2-run shot in the first. Why do pitchers continue to pitch Meadows down and in? I guess I really shouldn't be mad at it, but it's hard not to be mad at it. I mean, these are major league pitchers. Why aren't they understanding that this is like really the only pitch he can hit? I mean, when he's at his best, he's hitting everything, but even at his worst, when he seems like he can't hit anything, you give him a fastball down and in, and he's just going to take you out of the yard every single time, and that's exactly what he did in the first inning. 402 feet to right after a Rosarena's double. So screw, getting a single with runners in scoring position. Let's just hit it out of the yard and bring both of us in. So they gave the Rays an early lead, and reminded me of that series early in 2019 against the Sox in Chicago, where Meadows had some first inning home runs when they were taking all those early leads. This team is reminding me of that squad a couple years back right now. And then in the rest of his at-bats, not a whole lot. Struck out and 2 ground outs to second base, so not really out of the funk that he's in quite yet. He had a really terrific month of May, and but by the way, with that home run, I got the note here that Meadows, with that home run, that was RBIs 49 and 50, which is now good for number 2 in the American League. The only one who has more is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with, I want to say, 56. So that he's top 5 in the AL and runs batted in is terrific. By the way, 50 RBI, he had 9 in April. So that just a terrific month of May, and has even carried some of that success into June, but has struggled a little bit as of late. But even when he's at his worst, like I said, you pitch him down and in, he's gonna make you pay for it. Joey Wendell goes 2 for 4, and he's had a nice last handful of games. Got his average back up to 291, which is good to see. Had a leadoff singles, in the 4th and the 6th inning. Looking at those pitches that he was able to do damage against, the one in the 4th was an infield single to shortstop. It was just a changeup. Down and away, maybe a baseball off the plate, so was able to put it in play. That was good. And then in the 6th inning, it was just a single into right field on a 2-1 count. Got a cutter down and in from Lance Lynn, and so was able to get a couple leadoff singles. And he did not come to score on either of those, but it's always good to get the leadoff man of an inning on base, and obviously that gives you a terrific chance to score. And the 2 outs that he had were not with men on base, either of them. So when he needed to, obviously, was putting the ball in play. Taylor Walls, the switch hitting shortstop tonight, goes 1 for 3 with a run scored and a walk. one strikeout as well, an average of 254, and has been having a nice last handful of days. Had a leadoff walk in the second, and it looked like Choi, who struck out looking in the first against Lynn, was talking with Walls in the dugout, maybe telling him what to look out for. And unlike a lot of guys tonight, he refused to get worked over by Lynn and was really making him work in that at bat, and was able to draw the walk. Struck out after a leadoff single by Wendell in the fourth, grounded out in a double play ball in the sixth, which was not great to see, but just tough luck. And then in the ninth inning, ended up going the opposite way against the righty Jose Ruiz. So where he's hit all of his power stuff mainly as a left-handed hitter, and was able to go again the other way with it, as I said, for his fifth double of the year, and had I think 2 of his 3 hits yesterday were to the opposite field. So a really nice stretch at the plate here for Taylor Walls. Mike Zunino goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and he is now 0 for his last 11 at the plate. So that's been a very difficult stretch for him. Just he's swinging through fastballs, kind of just the stuff that we've seen when he's at his worst. So hopefully he'll be able to come out of that. But was fine defensively at catcher, and when the bullpen is going the way it is, that. You should throw some credit over to the catcher position. Kevin Kiermaier in center field, no spectacular plays that had to be made by him tonight, but goes 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Hit a 2-out single in the fourth to make it first and second, so did get a little bit of a run going, and then struck out with Walls at second in the ninth. So that was really his night. And then Brett Phillips in the 9-hole goes 1 for 4. No walks, a strikeout. His average is up to 213 after 3 walks yesterday, and he did hit an infield single in the ninth. It was basically a tie at the bag, but some poor defense made by Chicago, and the pitcher was not able to make a catch over there at the first base bag. And the ball gets away. That allows Walls to go from second to home. But good in that spot with a runner at second and 2 outs to put the ball in play and give your guy a chance. So Phillips, obviously credit for that, and he goes 1 for 2 on the night with runners in scoring position. The lineup as a whole, and it's important to remember that they're facing a terrific pitching staff in Chicago. Strikes out 12 times compared to 9 hits, so that's not a bad ratio. Walks 3 times as well. They go as a team 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position, which is what 1 for 3. So 333 batting average, as we're doing the back of the napkin math here on this early Tuesday morning, and they leave 5 men on the base path all night. You compare that to Chicago, 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position and 4 men left on base. And then not much else to say about the pitching staff that we haven't already. Glasnow, 4 innings and only 53 pitches, so healthy. He would have gone, probably quite deeper into the game. Could have gone probably 6 or 7 innings total in the night, but was removed early by the right elbow inflammation that we hope to have more for you tomorrow. And as we don't have any new updates, obviously, I think everyone is just going to be waiting for tomorrow. So they had to scramble a little bit. In the 5th inning, it was Ryan Thompson, and it was a bit of an adventure for him. He, I think, hung kind of a cutter with 1 out to the 9-man Mendick, and he hits a double. So in that situation, I believe it was a 3-2 game, so they got the tying run at scoring position. So this game really could have gone the other way. But Ryan Thompson, being the fireman that he is, has to put out his own fire, which typically he's not so good at doing. He's best, putting out other people's fires. But got Tim Anderson to fly out, walked Goodwin, so then you put yourself in danger again. And then seemed to kind of find his stuff against Yermin Mercedes, striking him out with a fastball, which has really been coming on as a good pitch for him lately. So that was good to see, and that was really the only reliever we had not discussed. We talked about JP Firehorizon's 2 perfect innings. Castillo working a fairly clean 8th, where he allowed a hit, a leadoff single to Tim Anderson that just got through the infield, a ball that just kind of ate up Wendell over there at third base, but they ruled it, an infield single, but a play that the Rays defense has typically made this year, as will probably lead the majors in defensive runs saved by season's end, and I think are at least the top right now. But then struck out the next two men, Brian Goodwin and Yermin Mercedes, so two good hitters. He had to face the 1-2-3 in the eighth, so maybe you do consider that the highest leverage spot tonight. And then Pete Fairbanks getting his third save and his second within the last couple of days, facing the 4, 5, 6 hitters in the lineup, Abreu, Grandal, and Eaton, and getting them all to ground out easily. He only threw 11 pitches, 7 for strikes. Total, the Rays staff, you don't get a much better line than this. Over 9 innings, they only threw 112 pitches, and 80 of them were for strikes. First pitch strikes, Glasnow was 10 for 16. And you talk about fire eyes, and any way you want to slice it, the walks were down 18 pitches, 15 for strikes, so, no walks at all. He was 6 for 6 in establishing the first pitch strike as well. So starting off all of his batters off 0-1, and with the slider and changeup looking as good as it was, I mean, that's a recipe for really some extreme success. So that was really good to see as well. And it looks like for tonight's game, that's about all we've got. Other notes that I was just taking throughout the game, the Rays are 15-3 this year when hitting 2 or more home runs. So the power trips continue for this team, and I mean, any team is going to win a lot of games when you're hitting homers, but it seems the Rays, especially with their terrific pitching. Meadows his 15th, Lau his 12th, Arozarena his 9th, when talking about the long ball here tonight, and then Arozarena with his 11th double, and Walls with his 5th double. We talked about Meadows with his 50 runs batted in, which is terrific. He's on pace for 110 RBI by season's end. He's now number 2 in the American League. In that category, also Brandon Lau, 35 home runs over his last 162 games played, which has yet to really play a full 162 game season in the majors. So if he does that, 35 home runs this year, that would be really great to see. And that was it. Rays are able to score early in the game, take the early lead, shut it down, but then also add insurance runs in the late stages, which is always terrific to see. So what we're going to do now is take a break. When we return quickly, we will preview tomorrow's game and get you up on out of here. So I want to thank everyone, as always, for listening to the program. And last call, maybe, for some calls, 877-566-1020. You can also drop us a line on Twitter at WHBC Official, and would love to hear your thoughts there as well. So with that being said, we'll take another quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey Rays fans, William will be right back. We're in a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us internationally toll-free at 877-566-1020 or tweet us your thoughts at WHBC Official. Also, we'd like you to stay tuned for William's other podcasting projects at speaker.com/user/WHBC.
Sports Radio 1019 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. At 12:20 on this Tuesday morning, we return on the William Haynes Show. final 5 minutes of the program or so. And again, last call for some phone calls, 877-566-1020. We'll take a quick call or two if we have any for any potential Rays thoughts. One thing that I wanted to clear up that I had erroneously said, just because it was what I saw on the ESPN page, that there was not really much injuries for the White Sox, but in fact, a lot of their prospects right now are down, and most of the main ones. Eloy Jimenez with a torn pectoral is out on the 60-day IL. Center fielder Luis Robert with a hip flexor strain is on the 10-day IL. Nick Madrigal as well, who's hitting over 300, is out with a hamstring. So, and Michael Kopech, a good starting pitcher. So, a team, and also Billy Hamilton, who you don't really expect to be an impact guy, but has been really great with the White Sox this year. So, the fact that they are as good as they are, 41-25, I should say, and first in the American League Central, even with those injuries, is a testament to how good the rest of the guys that they still have really are. And a guy that missed today's game, another one of the big boys, Yoan Moncada, was out with an illness, congestion, Tony La Russa said, and I think he'll be back for tomorrow's game, which we will talk about right now. Tomorrow at 8:10, again, Game 2 of the series, the Rays with the chance to take this best of 3. It will be a battle of southpaws. Shane McClanahan going for the Rays, and Dallas Keuchel, who the Rays have not seen in quite a while, going for the White Sox. So we'll start with the Rays pitching side first. Shane McClanahan, the 24-year-old left-hander, is 2-1 on the season with a .454 earned run average, but has really struggled to find his way his last couple starts. His last time out against Washington, 3 innings of 3 runs on 5 hits, 3 walks in there as well. Was missing a lot. Glove side, struggled to find command of his fastball, and the off-speed stuff wasn't really fooling anyone either. And then the time before that, 3 1/3 against the Yankees, where he was just getting hit after hit after hit allowed to the opposite field, pitching away to righties. 5 hits, or 4 runs on 5 hits, I should say, and 2 walks there as well. He had a string of 5-inning really effective starts, but again, the last 2 times out has really been rough for him. So you would imagine that against maybe the best lineup he's seen all season, although he has seen Oakland a couple times, but I would say easily that this White Sox lineup is better than the Athletics one. That this is going to prove to be another challenge, and if he doesn't have his best stuff, he's going to struggle. So a bullpen that, they're in pretty good shape, but if they're not careful, they're going to find themselves in another tricky spot. But with a 4-game set in Seattle, maybe a couple of good starts can relieve that. But at least in the Chicago series, they're probably going to have to burn some guys up. And it looks like right now, just for the record, the Wednesday afternoon's game against Chicago is Yarbrough's day to pitch, maybe behind an opener. So that would be a great spot for him to go CG again. Not that that's realistic, but either way. Getting back to McClanahan, again, this is just a really hard lineup to beat. I'm not even sure really what his keys are. He was at times even walking 3 over 3 innings. The fastball, he was able to get it for strikes, but he was just throwing them down the middle. There was home runs. That was on the 9th. A 2-run homer to the lefty Soto. He was a terrific hitter, but then also allowed one to the righty Ryan Zimmerman. So the White Sox lineup is the same. If you give him fastballs, even at 97, middle, they're going to make you pay for it. And the White Sox have been the best team in the majors at home, so they're in a place where they're comfortable as well. And I think they're about 60% capacity. There was, I didn't mention it, but tonight in 2 hours and 46 minutes in front of a paid attendance of 18,024. So I think that no, the Texas, they saw more fans in Texas, but it was a pretty raucous crowd in the South Side tonight. So obviously the White Sox offense is probably feeling good and obviously frustrated after scoring just 2 runs tonight. So in a bit of maybe a revenge spot against a pitcher that's struggling. I don't like the Rays in this matchup either, but if I know anything, I was wrong about tonight's game. I said to predict them maybe to lose. It would not be smart. But for McClanahan, he hasn't thrown really more than 80 pitches, so they don't seem intent on really stretching him out. So at 4 or 5 innings is his max. So let's say maybe he goes forward, just like Glasnow did tonight. You're going to need some major innings from the pen, but a couple guys that didn't pitch. Kittredge, also Jeffrey Springs are guys, so let's say they both go, and that gets you through 6. And then you could probably have all the big boys throw again. And then maybe Whistler as well. So let's say, depending on the score, because none of those are high leverage guys really. So let's say maybe McClanahan for 4, maybe Whistler in the 5th, Springs in the 6th, Kittredge in the 7th, and then you've got your pick of Castillo, Fairbanks, Fireisen as well. They've also got Colin McHugh, who would be ready in a bulk role. And he could just come right after McClanahan, if he only goes 3 or something, and McHugh could go for 2 or 3 of his own. And then Thompson, everyone's pretty much available. So this would maybe be a spot for Whistler to get some more work, and maybe we could talk some more about him. And then on the White Sox side, a guy that the Rays haven't seen in a while, it would have had to be before 2018 because I checked and they hadn't faced him then. So 2017 or prior, so there were really no matchups, save for, I guess, Kiermaier. But Dallas Keuchel, the 33-year-old left-hander, is 5-1 with a 4.14 earned run average. So they had their best starter tonight in Lance Lynn, but Keuchel is having a good season of his own. His last time out against the Toronto Blue Jays went 6 innings, 2 runs on 6 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. The walks have not been a real issue for him. He's had quite a few without any walks. So it doesn't appear that control is a huge issue this season. 21 walks, 41 strikeouts, 9 home runs allowed over the course of the season. So it's somewhat susceptible for the long ball. Trying to see I haven't done this before, but just kind of see the pitch mix that he's working with to give a bit of a scouting report. A sinker, cutter, changeup guy, and he's going to be kind of high 80s, it looks like, most of the time. So not really a real power pitcher, and a bit surprising for a guy that's only 33 years old, so is not too long in the teeth. But there is some similarities drawn between him and Lance Lynn, just a guy that's sinker, cutter, kind of just fastballs with movement, basically, and then kind of a changeup / slider action pitch in there as well. So another tough matchup. You'll know Dallas Keuchel from his time in Houston. He was there from 2012 to 2018. Spent 19 in Atlanta, and the last couple seasons has been on the south side of Chicago with the White Sox. And with him being a lefty, the Rays are going to go heavy with the righty bats. So they could go. So maybe let's say Arozarena in left, Kiermaier in center, Margot in right potentially, and then you would have maybe Meadows to DH, and then in the infield from third to first, I would go maybe Wendell at third, Walls at shortstop, Lau at second, and then I would do Yandy Diaz at first and give G-Man Choi a day off there, and then probably Mike Zunino to catch again, I'd imagine, and then I guess probably Mejia would pitch on the afternoon Wednesday game. That's how I would expect that to play out. So an 8:10 start, so it's going to wrap at about 11:30 or so as it did tonight. And we will be on the air again after the game, and I am greatly anticipating another great game, and hopefully they win. Want to thank everyone for tuning into the program tonight. No calls, but certainly we're always open to calls and would love to hear from you. I know we've been having some more listeners as of late, so again, I thank all of you for tuning in. Everyone from the Rays Reddit page, the Rays Discord server, anywhere you find the show. If you want to find the show, more of it, you want to get the link to the show right when it goes live, follow us on Twitter at WHBC Official. Also, you can follow this show page. We're listening to it on Spreaker.com, so again, you don't miss anything. We'll be on the air after tomorrow's game. Hopefully the Rays win and take the series. No doubt it'll be a good one. As always, we'll see you then.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. 66. The Fan.
HBC